Well, it's dark, the fire's going, but so is the wind. So we fixed a drink and we're back in the truck. Tonight, UFOs with pictures, hairy giants, flying dinosaurs, and some really creepy naked people. Good evening, everybody. I'm M.L. Behrman, and tonight we've got another episode of Mini Mysteries. So, what are mini mysteries? They're small articles or stories I've come across while researching some of my bigger stories that didn't quite warrant a whole episode, but nonetheless are really freaky or scary or just plain bizarre. I think you find them entertaining. Now, I'd like to welcome all my new subscribers. You might have noticed I've started doing shorts, which I know some people hate them, but it's great for bringing in new eyeballs to the channel. My last one got like 50,000 views, which never happens. And I got a lot of new subscribers, so welcome to them. And that's it. Tonight's drink is coffee and Fireball. And for those that don't know, Fireball's a cinnamon whiskey, which is kind of sweet. And we're parked for the night, so who cares, right? So drink up and let's get going. All right. Our first story tonight comes from Tombstone, Arizona in 1892, or 1890, you'll see. Now, this has to be the granddaddy of flying reptile stories, and it goes like this. In 1888, two cowboys were coming back from a trip to the city or wherever, and while riding across the desert heading towards Tombstone, they came across a strange animal out on the plains. And they said it looked like it had exhausted itself and landed because it was weak or sick. And they described it as a huge reptile with wings, a head that measured 8 feet long, and a tail and 2 legs, kind of like this, right? Now, they did what all good cowboys did. They shot it and they measured it. And I'll get to the measurements in a sec. But then they rode into town, told everybody, and they brought a photographer back and took a photograph of it. Now, that's the story. And it started because apparently there was a saloon in Arizona, in Tombstone. I've also heard this about Texas, that had the picture on the wall of the two cowboys with this giant flying reptile dead out in the desert. Now, the thing is, there's been so many fakes that purport to be this one photo. And I'm going to show you 3 of them. Okay, there's this one. There's this one. And there's a variation, this one. Now, those are all modern Photoshop things. I've seen some others that are similar, and I actually saw one that I couldn't get a copy of, but it purported to be the original photograph. And it was actually pretty good. It was 2 cowboys kneeling on this, what looked like a pterodactyl out in the desert. Although it was probably a fake, right? Or who knows. But anyway, that was the story, the folklore, and the pictures have gone around. Now, while doing a little digging on something else, I came across this article, A Strange Creature in Arizona. And it details the story exactly like I just told it. And it says it was from 1892, the paper it came from. Now, one of the problems with the story is that their measurements, that they said that the thing had a wingspan of 78 feet and was 160 feet long. Now, that is like the size of an airliner. That's not like a giant bird or something. That's, impossibly huge. Now, I was goofing around looking for more stuff on the story, and I came across a version of the same story from 2 years earlier, from 1890, entitled A Strange Creature from Arizona. And it's the exact article, word for word, right down to the measurements of 78 feet and 160 feet. So this sounds like a well-worn hoax that was going around even then and just got picked up by newspapers and amplified. Although like I say, there's some people that swear there is an actual photograph, and I've seen, like I said, one that could have been authentic in terms of being from the same period. Now, a living dinosaur that they shot, I don't know. I guess you'll have to tell me. What do you think? Living dinosaur or just another hoax? All right. Our next story comes from National City, California in 1973. And it also involves an unidentified flying object, but this isn't a creature. This was a craft. And what's really interesting about this one is it's a follow-up that I didn't know about to a story I did a little while ago about the Coachella UFO, which was a unidentified flying object that was seen by 100 or more people, including police, the Air Force, radar trackers, and the airport towers that passed over the area in 1973. Now, this article details about a group of, quote, UFO experts who wanted to come investigate that tale, and they came out to Palm Springs, and they decided to go out in the desert near Palm Springs in the exact area where I said a whole bunch of stuff had been seen, in order to get photographs, because they said that they could authenticate photographs and, were trying to get evidence that they could show. So they came out and they interviewed people and they looked around, but they didn't get any photographs of a similar object. Now, that object was described as a cigar-shaped craft with lights on either end that moved super fast. But they did bring some photographs that they had taken nearby of what they said were authentic UFOs. Now, here's the article, and you can see the pictures there. I'm going to bring those up individually. So here's the first one. All right. That is your classic flying saucer UFO. And it's one of those pictures that it's impossible to tell scale or really direction or anything. It could be a pie pan tossed in the air. It could be whatever. Now, their second one I want you to look at. Here's the second one. Okay, here's another flying saucer, but it's got these dorky antenna things coming out of the bottom. And I don't know what those are supposed to be or what they would be used for. And the picture to me looks like an obvious miniature. Now, the reason I brought this article up was, one, because it dovetails with the story I did, showing that there was interest in the phenomenon. But two, the idea that, quote, experts could point to these photographs and say they're real. Whereas I think you'll agree with me that looking at them, I wouldn't exactly bet the farm on those ones. And it's funny how the UFOs have changed over the centuries, from flying airships to flying saucers to cigar-shaped stuff to even today, where the Navy says they're seeing flying Tic Tacs or whatever they're calling them in these videos they've released. So that was the expert UFOs to come investigate. Now, that same paper, when I was looking at it, had this article, which you got to see, which is dog catcher chases humans because you have to control humans. So I don't know what that was about, but between the dog catchers after people and these guys after flying saucers, it was quite an addition. All right, our next story comes from Pocatello, Idaho in 1902, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Anyhow, Idaho is famous in Bigfoot lore for what's called the Wildman story, which was a tale about some trappers in the 1890s who went up into the interior and encountered some strange creature that actually killed one of them, and the other guy barely made it out, and it became one of those classic chestnuts that are told in all Bigfoot forums. And even it appeared in a book by President Theodore Roosevelt, because he heard it from one of his hunting guides. And so that's the background in the interior of Idaho, is wilderness with creatures. Now, in 1902, trappers and hunters up in the mountains started finding tracks along the river of a creature that had huge feet, big feet, right? 22 inches long by 7 inches wide. That's a huge foot. But it only showed 4 toes on each foot, and they said it looked like it was walking on 2 feet. And they would find it in the area around up there. They never saw it, but as the winter progressed and the snows got worse, they started to see it coming down lower and lower, the tracks. And they figured whatever it was, the cold and snow was driving it down towards the more inhabited areas. And they wondered if it was going to actually make contact with people or people were going to see it. And boy, did they, because here's the article. Hairy 8-foot giant attacks skaters with club. Now, what it was in this remote area, people would go out ice skating on the river or ponds, and they were out there one day, and this huge creature came flying out of the woods carrying a club and started smacking them, trying to physically hurt them. And they ran to their wagons and got away. That's what the article said. Now, if you can imagine some huge creature trying to smack you with a club while you're trying to get in your wagon and get the horses going, I mean, that's quite a picture. And when hunters came back to the area, they found the same tracks around the pond where the thing had attacked the people. So they formed a posse and went after it. And of course, like in all these things, did they ever catch up with it? No. Its tracks went back up into the mountains where they lost it in some really dense woods, and it was never seen again. So apparently Bigfoot doesn't like ice skaters, or he had something against them. I've heard some people say, well, it was the noise of people screaming that irritated him or whatever, but who knows, right? So that came from Idaho, a giant, hairy, 8-foot ape-man trying to Tonya Harding ice skaters. All right, our fourth story also is about a wild man, but this one has a real twist. It comes from San Bernardino, California in 1910. Now, the story originates across the border down in Old Mexico. And down there, they have their version of Bigfoot or a hairy wild man. And from what I have found, there's 2 types. There's one they call Sismito. I don't know if I pronounced that correct, which is kind of like a spirit one where it's a hairy giant, but he kills people and eats people, and kind of like the North American Wendigo or some of those creatures that are also spiritual. Then there's another one that's purely physical that they call El Mono Grande, which I hope I pronounced that right, translates as big monkey. And that is more your traditional Bigfoot, giant ape-man type thing. I have some great Hispanic viewers. If you guys know of any other type things or can correct me on anything, that'd be great. In the comments, if you'd add some of your input, would be awesome. Now, people in 1910 in the mountains had been encountering what they thought was El Mono Grande, right? The big monkey. Footprints, had been breaking into secluded ranches and stealing food, breaking into barns and taking things. And one person had said they had seen someone growling, heard someone growling. When they looked, they saw a huge bearded face looking at them from behind a bush that the thing then ran off. So all your classic Bigfoot type phenomena, right? But then someone said that they had seen the wild man And he wasn't El Mone Grande. He was El Pipi Blanco, which what they said was it was a giant naked white man with a beard. And not only had they seen this giant naked white man, they had talked to him. And he told them that he was from America. He was born into a rich family, and he had a tragic love affair. And the woman had ruined him, and he had soured on civilization, and he decided to go into the mountains in Mexico and live as a hermit, wild man, naked guy. And that's what he was doing, and he had no intention of returning to civilization, and he would harm anyone that tried to take him back. And this witness who talked to him said that he was completely naked. The only thing he had was a beard and a shotgun. So I guess that ended the argument, and the guy went back into the woods. Now, the story got over the border, and people heard about it up in San Bernardino in the Mojave. And a family that lived there, very well off, said, wait, that sounds like Junior. Apparently, they had a son who had had a tragic love affair, and it had ruined him, and he had disappeared. And they thought, I wonder if that's who this wild man across the border is our kid. So what did they do? They hired the famous archaeologist Captain Bartlett to go down there and capture the wild man. Now, who was Captain Bartlett? Well, apparently he was an Indiana Jones type character who was famous for his bravery and willingness to tackle crazy things. And he was going to go down there and find the guy and either talk him into coming back or, bag him and bring him back. And unfortunately, that's all the article gives us, is that he was off on this expedition to reclaim this rich kid who had gone rogue down in Mexico. Or at least that's what the family thought. Now, that whole thing would make a great television episode for some Western or something. But did they ever get the guy? I don't know. But the idea of some giant naked guy running around out there is that or a big monkey, I guess, take your pick. Now, that is our fourth story. Now, do I have a personal story that involves a crazy naked person in the wild? Well, yes, I do. So before we get to that, let's freshen our drinks and we'll be right back. All right. So this one happened in Joshua Tree National Park. And there is a section of road down in the Pinot Basin, which is a rather remote area, that among locals is called the Death Road. And why is it the Death Road? Well, because at least 6 people have died on that road. And the latest one was in 2011 when a European couple went down the road and got stuck in the sand and apparently tried to hike out, and both the man and the woman were found dead on the road within a day of them getting stuck. Now, the history of this road, which is called Black Eagle Mine Road, goes back to 1904, where there's hidden graves there from miners that died down in that area too. And it's a road that's about 8 miles long that goes from the Blacktop through the basin out to what used to be the mining district. Now the Park Service has pretty much closed it off and is returning it to a wilderness area, which is cool because, we don't have enough wilderness, right? So I used to go down that road a lot. And the reason that people would perish down there wasn't because of some supernatural thing. It was because basically they were making bad decisions. It was deep sand, rough, broken rock. You need four-wheel drive, and they would take cars down there and, just like I say, make a bad decision that ended up costing them their lives. And I can't tell you how many times I had seen someone start down that road in a car only to get stuck within, half a mile of the pavement. Anyway, I had a Jeep. I used to go down there a lot. And there were two things at the end of that road that were really cool. One was the UFO jade mine, which I've done an episode on, which just real quickly was a mine that a guy named Barry Storm found, that he claimed flying saucers led him to that exact spot, that they shot beams down, and when he dug, he found something, and he actually spent the last 30 years of his life out there mining and seeing UFOs and dealing with the men in black. I mean, it's go check out the episode. It's a great story. The other thing that's down there is something that only a few people know about, that me and my friends nicknamed the Naked Mine, because it's an old mining district, right? So there's open shafts everywhere that aren't marked. And now when I say an open shaft, could be driving along and all of a sudden there's this perfectly timbered vertical shaft open with no warning or fence around it or anything, and boom, you go down 100 feet, 150 feet, no problem. Well, it's a problem if you do. Anyway, and a lot of them, like I say, aren't on maps. So one time about 10 years ago, Buddy and I decided to go down there and spend the night because it was the Personate meteor shower, and there's no light because there's nothing down there, so no light pollution. So we thought, well, okay, we'll go check out the meteors, and in the morning, before it gets too hot, we'll check out some mines and then come back. So we were down there, and we built a fire on a little hill in an open area. And while he was tending the fire, I went to take a leak. And I walked out behind us, behind some rocks, and lo and behold, there's an open shaft, this big, square, timbered shaft. Now, I didn't get too close to the edge because you got to watch these things, because some of them are over 100 years old. The wood is rotten. The ground's undermined. It's, dangerous. It can collapse from your weight. So if you're going to look down them, you basically got to crawl up to the edge, on your stomach and look down. And even then, it's kind of iffy. So I could just peer a little bit, into it, and I could see down to the first level, which is maybe 60, 70 feet. And there's just enough light, and I see a jumble of naked bodies. And I'm talking like 10, 12 torsos. I can see arms, elbows, and a lot of breasts. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I call my buddy. I'm like, dude, bring the light and bring a rope. So he comes over, and we edge up and look down and shine a light down. And what it was somebody had dumped a truckload of naked store mannequins down this mine, and they had all landed in this tangled jumble, and they were all female models, hence the breasts, and they were all, tangled up down there. Now, we later found out this mine had been open in 1890 and had closed in 1950 something. And so you're like, well, how the hell did these mannequins get down there? And now this isn't the naked weird part, right? This is just how it got its name. And now the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, used to dump garbage down open mines to try and block them, to dissuade people from going down in them. And I found old cars, washing machines, all sorts of stuff down in mines that you'd go like, how the hell did this get down here? But I never knew of to dump a truckload of naked store mannequins down there. So that's why we nicknamed it the Naked Mine. All right. So at the end of this death road, there was the UFO mine and the Naked Mine. So it's an interesting area. Now, fast forward 5 years, which about 6 to 7 years ago, my girlfriend and I like to take drives and explore stuff. So I told her, hey, why don't we go down the end of, the death road, And I'll show you the naked mine and the UFO mine, and, we'll see whatever else we can see. We'll make a day of it. So she was like, okay, cool. So we start down there. Now, as soon as you leave Blacktop, there's a huge sign that says, unmaintained road, not patrolled. You need four-wheel drive, deep sand, turn around if you don't have any of that. And for God's sake, hope you have enough water. So we start down the road. I'm in my Jeep, right? So I'm okay. I get maybe half a mile down the road, and on the right side, there's like three big rock hills, little mountains, hills that are in a cluster. And then after that, the road kind of breaks into an open, broken plain of broken rock and stuff, and you cross that for a half hour, 40 minutes, and then you get down into the mining district where the UFO mine, the naked mine, and whatever else mine you find are down there. So like I say, I'm maybe a half mile down the road. It's in the morning. I'm going by the rock piles, and I happen to look over, and I see a car pulled back into the rocks, like hidden back there. And what caught my eye immediately was the type of car, because I recognized it, because when I was young, they were one of the hip cars. It was a 1973 Lincoln Town car. And I found a picture of the exact year and the exact color, and that's it. So I saw that car down this deserted death road, tucked up into the rocks. Like, who the hell would take that down there? And I stop, and, we're looking, and I don't see anybody. It's just stashed back there. And I turn to my girlfriend. I go, what do you want to bet there's a body in the trunk of that car? Like someone, is dumping someone out here. And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you want to go look? And she's like, hell no. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let me just get out and take a little look. I'm not going to go up to it. I'll just get a little closer. So I get out and I walk around and look, and I can see boot prints coming up from the car onto the road, and then they go down the road towards the mining district, right? Not towards the blacktop. They're going away from civilization. I'm like, okay, well, someone must have parked back there. Maybe they're, I don't know, photographer, or sometimes people poach at some of these mines. They're still trying to pull some of the gold mines. They're trying to find stuff in the tailing piles or whatever. You're not supposed to, but people do it. So maybe that's why they were hidden. So I get back in the Jeep, and we keep going down the road. We go maybe another mile and a half, and we come around the corner, and I see the guy. He's walking down the middle of the road away from us. And let me describe him. Okay, he's tall. He's not like big, but tall. He's got on hiking boots. There's gray like overalls, like a work outfit. And he's got this like mountaineer's hat, like an alpine hat, I guess they call it. And I found a picture of that. So he was wearing that hat, and he had a staff, like a walking staff, like Gandalf or something, which isn't all that weird because I use a walking staff a lot too if I'm in a snaky area. Anyway, he's, trucking down the road with his jaunty hat. So we're rolling up on him, and I say to my girlfriend, like, hey, look, it's the Happy Wanderer. He's out for a hike. He left his nice classic car up in the rocks. Okay, cool. Now, immediately, he ducks around and looks around at us. And his body language was a little bit strange, just his movement. And as we get closer, he jumps up on the side of the road, which was like banked sand, deep sand. And he stands there looking at us, right? And I'm kind of like, okay. And we roll up, and as I'm getting closer, he's like scowling at us. It's like this weird, like scowl, like, and usually in the desert, there's a thing. I practice, a lot of people do. If you come up on someone by themselves, it's polite to stop and ask, are you okay? Do you need water? Just make sure everything's all right. Sorry, I had to change the battery. Anyhow, like I say, we roll up on this guy, and he's scowling at us. And as I'm getting right up to him, he's like, and my girlfriend's digging in my leg going, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't seem right, and he doesn't seem very friendly, so screw it. But as I go by, now it's four-wheel drive, I can't zoom by, so I'm creeping by, and I look at him, and I wave. I'm like, hey. And he just looks at me. He doesn't, no expression, nothing. Now, I have a pet peeve thing that always triggers me. If I say hi to you, and you just blow me off or ignore me. Sometimes I've been known to go up to someone and go, what, are you too dumb to say hi? And my girlfriend can feel me tensing up. She's like, just let it go. Like, forget it. I'm like, all right, screw him. So we drive off, right? And I look in the rearview mirror and I can see he's just like looking at us. And he didn't come down off the side of the road until we had like gone a good distance. And then he got back in the road and started walking. We were like, wow, that was weird. Don't know what he's up to, but, we're going to go play. So it takes us another 40 minutes to get down to the mining district and the wilderness area where we spend the day. I show her the naked mine and take her out to the UFO mine, which you got to hike like 2 miles out, but it's cool, and I'm tour guiding, this is where he said the UFOs pointed, and you can see where he dug here, and this is where his cabin was, and we went in the mine, and a lot of cool stuff. Then we found a really nice big tree that gave shade during the hottest part of the day, and we stopped and we had a picnic, and we spent the whole day there. It was great. Now, during the whole day, we kept making jokes about the Happy Wanderer, or we were calling him the German for some reason, because of the hat, which I don't know if it's German or Swiss or whatever, but we were just going, yeah, I wonder what the German's up to, or, I wonder what the Happy Wanderer's doing now. And, if we see him when we go back. So, like I say, we spend the whole day, have a great time, and the sun's starting to go down, and it's, going to be dark soon, so I got to start back because it's going to be an hour to get up to the road. So we start back driving. Now I'm heading directly west, so I'm almost driving into the setting sun. So it's hard to say. I got my sunglasses on. I got the shade down, and we're driving along, and we get up to where we had seen him get off the road, and I can see his tracks going up and then crossing the road, but I don't see them going back. So I'm like, well, he either looped back a different way or he's still out here. And we keep driving, and we come around that corner to where you can see the car real well. And remember, it was on my right side. Now it's on my left side. And the sun's in my eyes, so I'm kind of squinting. And I look over, and the car's still there. And then I see movement near it. This like weird movement. And so I let off the gas, and I'm crawling anyhow, I let off the gas, and I look, and all of a sudden, he comes skipping out from behind the car in a circle and starts dancing this dance around his car, like I'd interrupted this thing. Now, let me paint this picture for you, okay? He is buck naked, right? The only thing he's got on are his hiking boots, that hat, and his staff. Everything else is, his junk's flopping in the wind, and when I say dancing, it's not like he was like, dancing. It's like, have you ever seen a little kid skip like da 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 da? I mean, he's doing this exaggerated thing, and he's looking up the whole time, and he's got this look on his face of like religious mania. I don't know what, just like, and he's going round and round this car. And, at this point, I've stopped, and we're both looking like, I look at my girlfriend, I go, holy shit. Look at this fruit fly. What is he up to? And she's just like, oh my God, he's like having a maniac episode. Now, I've seen and run into a lot of meth heads in the desert, and there's some pretty crazy stuff with them, but not like this. People that get heat stroke, often they will shed their clothes and do, dumb things or seemingly dumb things. And hence, this was the death road where over 6 people had died of heat stroke on it. So, I mean, it was within the realm of possibilities. Or maybe he's having a reaction to his medicines or something, or maybe he's just flat out batshit. And, your first instinct is like, does he need help? But on the other hand, you're like, this is just too bizarre. And he just keeps it up. I mean, I know he can see me because we're real close, but he's not looking at me. Like I say, he's looking up and doing this crazy naked dance round and round. And we just looked at each other and she's like, let's just go home. It was a perfect day. We don't need to get sucked into this. So we're like, okay, so I honked the horn just to like, hey, but he didn't acknowledge us. He just kept up his ceremony. And we drove off, and we drove back to the road, got on it, and took us a few hours to get home. Now, I looked at the papers and I asked around for the next week or so to see if anyone had been found dead down there again, or if any reports of anything. I never heard anything. And I didn't go back down there for, several months. So I don't know if he was still out there, but oh my God, what the hell that was about, I don't know. A crazy, naked, wild man for sure. So that's my story. If you want to hear a creepy, tragic story about 30 naked dead guys, you ought to check out this video. And if not, I will see you guys later.